We are now going to delve into one of the most significant yet often most underestimated components of the NIST Special Publication 839 framework, Section 2.7, Organizational Culture. In our previous discussions, we've analyzed the mechanics of risk. However, if we view risk management solely as a mechanical exercise, we fail to account for the human element. Culture refers to the collective values, beliefs, and norms that influence behaviors. It is, quite literally, the way things are done around here. An organization's culture defines its risk management strategy. The strategy is the formal roadmap, but culture is the engine. If the strategy is not consistent with the underlying culture, that strategy is dead on arrival. It will be impossible to implement because people operate under different unwritten rules. Implementing this is a major organizational change. We must align three critical pillars: people, processes, and culture with new goals. For senior leaders, understanding culture is a prerequisite. They must include cultural considerations as a fundamental component in their strategic level thinking. If leadership ignores cultural gravity, they cannot manage change. We don't just issue mandates. We must shift the values that drive those mandates. Culture also dictates the degree of risk an organization is willing to incur. This is most visible in an organization's willingness to adopt leading-edge information technologies. R&D organizations are early adopters. Their culture is exploration. They push boundaries and focus on potential benefits rather than potential harms. Conversely, high-security entities are conservative. Characterized by suspicion, they prefer to wait until a technology is proven and harms are understood. Consider proprietary software versus cloud computing. A culture prizing control may insist on in-house development, sacrificing efficiency for lower external risk. Another might seek the cloud's advantages, accepting less direct control. This trade-off is a cultural decision, reflecting values of self-reliance versus scalability. Building on our understanding of internal ethos, we must recognize that culture does not exist in a vacuum. In the modern landscape of information security, we frequently see two or more organizations operating together toward a common purpose. This is the realm of interorganizational dynamics. When organizations collaborate, they bring their respective cultural baggage to the table. This often results in a clash of different risk management strategies. NIST 839 highlights a classic example. Imagine two entities working to build a defense against an advanced persistent threat, APT, which we define as a sophisticated, relentless adversary with significant resources and the intent to maintain a long-term presence on a network. One organization, rooted in a need-to-know culture, will focus almost exclusively on preventing unauthorized disclosure, the loss of confidentiality. The other organization, focused on critical infrastructure or emergency response, will emphasize mission continuity, the availability of services. However, these disconnects are not limited to partnerships between different agencies. They occur frequently within a single organization. We call these internal disconnects. Consider a large medical facility. You often see tension between information technology, IT components, and operational components. The IT department, driven by a culture of compliance, may prioritize the personal privacy of patients, implementing strict access controls. Meanwhile, the medical professionals live in a culture that prioritizes the availability of medical information to save lives. If a doctor cannot access a patient's chart during a crisis because of a complex password requirement, the cultural values of security and treatment have reached a critical point of friction. Ultimately, culture both shapes and is shaped by the people within the organization. This influence permeates all three tiers of the NIST risk management hierarchy. At Tier 1, organization governance, the senior leaders and executives set the stage. They establish the risk tolerance, the level of risk or degree of uncertainty that is acceptable to the organization, both formally and informally. Formal establishment occurs through the publication of strategy and guidance documents, but it is the informal establishment that truly defines the culture. Leaders signal their true values through the actions they reward and those they penalize. They establish culture through the degree of consistency in their actions and the degree of accountability they enforce. If a leader speaks about the importance of security but rewards a manager for cutting corners to meet a deadline, the culture shifts toward expediency over security, regardless of what the written policy says. In summary, the direction set by senior leadership and their nuanced understanding of existing organizational values are the primary factors in determining how risk is managed. To manage risk effectively, we must manage the culture that perceives and reacts to that risk. As you review your notes, consider how the unwritten rules of a workplace might undermine the most sophisticated technical firewall.